Hey Tracy, Lee. Sorry this update's been a long time coming. Between the pandemic and Fuzzy breaking his ankle and da 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 da. So here goes. We're putting the frame back together. That's your differential, the front one that we were actually able to save. And Nathan carefully installing the spring shackles. Nathan is coming along with the BRG Bronco build. Pay attention to that shock mount. That becomes a big problem later on in the build. We had to come up with some interesting ways of fixing that, since the spring shackle is attached permanently to the frame. We're here to say that a pain in the ass to get installed. We had to get one of the blinks sitting back there to get it close enough, and then literally press them into place. So they ain't going anywhere. At the time with those radius arms, we didn't know that you needed to install them with the differential and the frame in place so you can get the ride height correct. Everybody was thinking the frame was bent because the frame wasn't sitting level, and it was because those were installed incorrectly. We since redid them, and everything's fine now. But Monday, hoping to have this thing on the wheels. Some shots of the differential and the frame and springs and stuff. Brakes. Rear differential going in. Starting to look like a chassis again. Buzzkill. And it's up on its wheels. Can be rolled around now. Now looking at the... This is the Wild Horse steering box, the super heavy duty one. And if you're familiar with the stock Bronco, this thing's huge. Plus it's power steering. So, more progress. Next group of parts to be installed is the transmission, the transfer case, and new heavy-duty flywheel and clutch assembly. This is when it gets sketchy. Trying to get all of this back into that. Are you nervous? A little bit. I am. Yeah. Just keep your hands up, out from underneath them. Drum roll? Do we have a drum roll? What? A drum roll? Drum roll. So we could download that. Huh? So we could download the drum roll. Very good. Yeah, that's it. Slide it right in the middle of the road. Why don't we just hold that under this? We can do that. How are you going to... Hold that under this? come over here and give him a hand. Okay, they got it.
Fucking table.
Okay, go lower the motor down. That goes right into that slot there.
Pry bar on it?
Just lower it down. Lower it, just lower it down a little bit. It's okay, let it run.
That's actually pull it out.
There you go. Well, we got to put a level.
Looking at the front where the harmonic balancer goes. We move this back. Yeah, we can move this back some. So we slide this back. Look right here, Casey. So I don't think it's going to sit. Where the body sits, it goes, there's like a step on the driver's side and it drops down to go across. I think that's what it's coming for this part.
Well, I think
Until we can test fit the body.
I think we better test fit it next week. Then pull it off, and then we can do the brake hoses and all that other stuff. But I'm really happy with it. Watch yourself.
That I got the right shade of black right here with the belt.
No, that actually all looks great. You happy with it?
So far, so good.
Cool.
When we got the body to sit down on top of the frame, we found that we had some new issues to deal with. Mainly, the engine was sitting up way too high in the chassis, and we needed to get everything to come down about 4 inches in the front and in the back. The back was kind of a pain, but Nathan got in there and figured out what to do with the interface between the transfer case and the transmission to keep the transmission level. So the shifting and stuff, you can see how far off it is in this picture. And it was hitting everything. But Nathan did the job. Nathan did a nice
Yesterday,
nice bit of work here.
Took the whole transfer case
You can
off.
see here
Was looking
that
at all the
it's nestled in there
holes in the
quite
adapter
nicely.
And came up with this. I think it worked out really, really well. It's a good job. So we lowered it. How much did we lower it? About 4 inches?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, it was a bunch. But this time have Fuzzy spot weld them suckers in until we're absolutely sure. I don't want to play this
When
game.
we put the body on the frame with the way the motor was before,
Right.
it was hitting everything.
You got
The
ruckus.
body was hitting the
You got
engine, the
clearance.
steering box.
Wind firewall on the
Wasn't
motor.
good. So we pulled everything back
The
apart,
steering
took
box.
the motor out, had Fuzzy
There you go.
relocate the motor mounts lower,
It is
about 4
definitely
inches
a
worth.
snug fit.
and here's the result. Everything
Dropping
fit
that motor
just like it's supposed to.
4 inches in
Almost
the front.
like we knew what we were doing.
Was what this thing needed. Just standing here, it looks right. Needed to cut a little bit more out of the shifter, but That was no biggie. Happy. Happy, happy, happy.
There were a couple other things that didn't have a lot of film on, but I noticed when we were working with the rear transmission mount that we got from Wild Horse is that it had these two little notches in it. I saw those as being a good place for the rear motor mount to flex. So we made these little triangle pieces, welded those in. That should take care of the problem. With 400 horsepower, I don't want this thing to have any opportunity to be moving around. The other problem that we ran into was the rear shock mounts. The rear shock mounts are permanently installed onto the frame. When you strip one out like we did, that makes it a problem. But Fuzzy came up with this cutter that allowed us to cut it down to a 7/16 diameter, and we're able to rethread in the same. Problem solved. We didn't have to buy a new frame. Yippee!